Welcome back, everyone, to the Digital Tiny Room. I am your host, Michael, and I'm here digitally, as usual, with my co-host, Benjamin. Say hello, as usual, Benjamin.
Hello, as usual, Benjamin.
Brilliant.
Variation. Boom.
We should tell people that we do that little back and forth to sync up the audio, because we're actually on different continents.
Yes, well, no, we're not.
We're on different continents.
That's completely facetious, as usual. A nice facetious start to the podcast. No, we're not on different continents. We're in different countries, Michael. I've explained this to you before.
Look, Ben, this is the pop culture and movie podcast, not a geography podcast.
That's only because you didn't let me make it into a geography podcast, Michael. I think you'll recall there was a very nice 12-page presentation put together suggesting that we change our tone, but no, Michael wanted to talk about movies.
I couldn't take any more chat about the Danube and why it was important to early Europe.
It is important to early Europe, for God's sake.
Bloody Danube.
You can't just sweep the Danube under the rug. It won't go away, Michael.
Ben, let's talk about the things we're supposed to talk about.
Yeah, okay.
What do you think of that idea?
That's pretty good. How are you, Michael?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Any news?
Yeah, look, Ben, I don't know if you've been following this, but there's a movie coming out called The Black Panther.
The Black Panther?
Yes, it's about a bumbling French policeman who's tracking down a diamond. No, Ben, it's not. It's called Black Panther, and it's about a superhero.
Okay.
Have you seen that there have been early screenings and people have seen it?
Yeah, apparently they're going bananas for it. Apparently
People are going bananas for it. Interestingly, it's hard to find any reactions to it about if it's any good. I mean, people are saying it's definitely good and it's important and it's representative and I still haven't, I don't know if the plot's going to be any good, but at least it does seem to be that people who've seen it absolutely love it.
Okay, interesting. So we don't know if it's a good movie. We know it's culturally significant for several reasons, but we don't know if it's a good movie.
It's in a lot of ways it reminds me of Wonder Woman.
A
fairly. I'm not trying to knock either Wonder Woman or Black Panther, but it looks like it might be a fairly by the numbers plot. But the fact of who the characters are what people are going to remember about it.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But Ben, on that topic, have you ever heard of the group Down with Disney's treatment of franchises and its fanboys?
No.
Now, I'll admit, Ben, not the catchiest name.
No, not great for marketing purposes.
So, Down with Disney's treatment of its franchises and its fanboys is a populist group who kind of conspire to give movies that they don't like the cut of low scores on the likes of your Rotten Tomatoes and your Metacritic.
Okay.
So their first target was The Last Jedi, and they claimed success in damaging the review scores of The Last Jedi on review aggregate websites.
For example, Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes being the major one, really. So that's their kind of stated goal. They've been banned from Facebook, though.
Oh, I see.
They targeted The Last Jedi mostly because of how many female characters there were, and the fact.
Oh, I heard about this. A very salty neckbeard made a no female cut of The Last Jedi.
I imagine it's quite deep.
I heard something very similar. Oh man, that's crazy. So are you telling me that neckbeards have put aside their social anxiety and lack of people skills to bond together in petty hatred of things?
No, I don't think that's fair on neckbeards, because I think some of these people are just flat out racists.
Oh, okay. This is less a neckbeard thing and less a gatekeeping thing and more just a good old-fashioned racism.
No, I think that I think the gatekeepers and the racists have found a common ground, basically.
Oh, Disney bringing people together.
Isn't that quite lovely in a lot of ways? I mean, it is comical that this is happening. Here's the thing, though, right? In one sense, obviously, they're kind of borderline repulsive humor. I imagine quite a few of them are just trolls who are doing it for the lols. I'd say
Well, they do love a lol.
I'd say there's only a tiny core group of them who genuinely believe that we should try and disrupt any movies that might star black people. But the thing is, right, in one way, I'm kind of happy that they exist because it highlights the stupidity of how powerful Rotten Tomatoes has become.
Oh yeah, okay, that's cool. Yeah, it's a nice kind of revealing look at aggregate websites, I suppose.
Yeah, but I mean, it's supposed to be this aggregate site, but I mean, they don't really make it abundantly clear how their scores are assigned. Like, people see this 91% on Rotten Tomatoes and they think that movie is a 91% movie. It's a 9 out of 10 movie. When in reality, all it means is that 91% of reviews of it are positive.
Yeah, so it doesn't necessarily mean it's a good movie. It means that certain people like certain things about it, and those are the people that have voiced there.
But not even that. It could mean that, like, 91% of reviews are positive, but most of those reviews could be 6 out of 10 reviews.
Oh.
But they're still positive.
They're still on the positive side of the scale.
That's the thing. I mean, I know we go back to Iron Fist a lot, but Iron Fist got 19% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not
19.
It's not a 2 out of 10 show. It's a 4 or 5 out of 10 show. But it probably, in most reviews, got 5, 6 out of 10. But 5 counts as negative. So only 20% were positive.
Oh, okay.
Which is you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Also, Ben.
Real interesting.
Also, Ben, Rotten Tomatoes is owned by Fandango. Do you know what Fandango is?
Nope.
Fandango is as an Irish equivalent, it's a cinema version of Ticketmaster for the America.
Oh.
So Fandango,
that's not very good.
Yeah, if you're in your city in your America, if you're in your Boston, or if you're in your Texas or your New York or one of those places,
or your Chicago.
Yeah, for example, or your however people from Seattle talk. Hey, I'm from Seattle.
I'm just so over it.
If you're in one of those places and you want to go see a film, but you don't have a particular theater in mind, you'll go on your Fandangos and you'll buy your ticket there. So it's not like there's
taking a look.
It's not like there's no vested interest in Rotten Tomatoes in terms of ticket sales. Are
you saying it's not unbiased?
Well, I'm saying
things.
I'm saying I am not a fan of the group down with Disney's treatment of its franchises and its fanboys. Good. The thing is, I don't know if they mean the treatment of. I don't know if they mean Disney's treatment of its fanboys or if they mean Disney fanboys. It's not a great name.
It doesn't really tell you everything you need to know.
No, and anyway, what was I saying? Although I'm against them, I kind of hope they take down Rotten Tomatoes. And we move away from aggregate review sites who are secretly owned by the Illuminati.
Okay. So, all right, you don't agree with the motivation, but you agree with the possible side effects of the conflict.
The very possible side effects. But I mean, like the fact that I don't want them to give a negative review score to Black Panther is more important than the fact that I think we shouldn't care about Black Panther's Rotten Tomatoes score anyway.
Oh, okay. You have a classic CIA conundrum.
Yeah,
they're arming the rebels, but the rebels might get out of control. We just don't know how it's going to go.
What's that sound?
That was a motorbike outside my window.
What is it? Probably a Vespa.
Probably a Vespa. Guessing from where I am.
I'm gonna go somewhere quickly. Move out of the way of my Vespa.
Don't racially profile Italians. Stop
I'm not. That. I'm doing the accent. I'm from Italia. Ben. Anything else?
Well, there was a little trailer dropped.
Oh, I see what you've done there.
A little trailer drop there. Yeah. There's wordplay. There's wordplay. The new trailer for Antman and The Wasp came out. this week, Michael.
Yeah.
And I say Ant-Man and the Wasp because
Yeah.
they've kind of rebranded the Ant-Man franchise.
Yeah, it's called Antman and The Wasp now, for example.
Yeah. But I think one of the most interesting things is
on.
that in the new logo, they have equal billing.
Well,
It's
she's
not
second.
Ant-Man. Yeah, but it's not Ant-Man and a little byline and the Wasp.
no.
It's Ant-Man and the Wasp. Like, they're equally sized things. It's interesting. And I think
on.
it's because they know Ant-Man isn't strong enough to carry a series on its own.
Oh.
I think it's because of that. Did you see the first Ant-Man, Michael?
Of course I did, Ben. You know I did. What a ridiculous question.
Yeah, sorry. But I didn't think the first Ant-Man was anything exciting. I thought it was I think it was probably the most phoned-in Marvel movie, apart from Doctor Strange, maybe. But Doctor Strange was interesting visually. Yeah, but I think it's one of the most phoned-in Marvel films.
I think it
that
was
I've seen.
possibly ever so slightly better than Doctor Strange, but probably the best thing about it was Michael Pena. And
Yeah, he was
he's
pretty good.
not a lot to do with superheroics. He's just an interesting
And I think-
little sidekick character.
I think it's way better that way. No, I mean, it's like, in terms of interesting plots, Ant-Man is kind of more interesting because it handles the espionage side of things, I guess, you know, because he's so small. And yeah, but I think they knew that, I don't know, he's just not strong enough or like, you know, interesting enough a character. But also, interestingly, with her new billing on the top of the thing, the Wasp is nearly probably the most prominent female character that we've seen build in terms of billing.
Yeah,
like you
sure.
have if you have like Black Widow and stuff, but Black Widow has never had Captain America and Black Widow.
No, and you could have called Civil War Captain America and Black Widow.
And Black Widow, you could have, because
was
it's
certainly in
their
it,
own. Yeah, she's crucial. So it's kind of interesting. Marvel is kind of taking a step forward and trying to push that a little bit further. I think our diversity hires are going up. What did you think of the trailer, Michael?
What did I think of the trailer? I thought it was pretty generic, to be honest.
Yeah, it's very much.
It's the forgotten film of 2018 for Marvel, because you've got Black Panther, which is this big cultural shift. First black led superhero movie, first African superhero movie, first everything, and looks like it's going to smash records for this type of film. And then you have Infinity War, which is obviously going to possibly
Just a monster. Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it does better business than The Last Jedi. I don't think it'll do The Force Awakens business, but it'll do probably better than The Last Jedi, which is a massive film.
Yeah, for me, it just...
Go on, sorry.
Yeah, for me, it just looked like Ant-Man. Very
Probably
much
have to edit
Ant-Man
that
2.
out, Ben.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Ant-Man 2.
It's just... No, I know, but it's like an extended trailer from the first one. All the size gags are back in, you know. And that stuff, I don't know if it's going to be as entertaining as it was the first time around. Like, it's very funny to have a big climactic scene. Sorry, spoilers for Ant-Man 1 if you haven't seen it. Where it's like on a child's play set with trains and stuff like that. It's very funny because it's small. But they don't seem to have changed that. You have the Pez dispenser being thrown out the back of the
I thought that was
thing.
very good. I like that.
Yeah, but it's exactly the same as the first one. It's like, oh, look, here's something that's never been very big. Oh!
Now it's big.
Now it's big. Now it's big.
Keep
And the same with Pym Industries, where it's like, oh, look, it turns out it has a suitcase functionality that the whole time. Look at Michael Douglas shrink that down and brush that pigeon away.
Where was the foundation for that building? That was very dangerous in California.
That was so dangerous.
Where they have
so
earthquakes.
dangerous.
I suppose the plan is, if there is an earthquake, just shrink the whole thing and it'll be fine.
I suppose.
Be quiet for a second, Ben.
Yes.
But, sorry. Just remember, though, this was a teaser trailer, not a full trailer.
Yes.
So
very true.
I'm
very
not surprised that there wasn't anything startling and shocking in it. The one thing was, imagine how startling and shocking the image of the big giant man head. Is there a dog outside your place now? What's going on there?
Yes, sorry.
Bloody dogs.
It's not great.
Bloody Vespas.
It's terrible.
I'm a dog.
It's an Italian traditional.
Anyway, yes.
It's gonna ruin the podcast.
Imagine how shocking that Giant Man head would be if Civil War hadn't stole Ant-Man's thunder by doing his Giant Man reveal in Civil War.
I don't know why they did the Giant Man reveal in Civil War.
It was great.
It was so silly.
It wasn't. It was so great. That was a spectacular moment. That was the cinema I was in when that happened. Went. It was just. It was visually amazing.
Okay, fair enough. I do really enjoy Paul Rudd kind of just being Paul Rudd again. I love that. That's my favorite thing about Paul Rudd. He's just never been anybody but himself in anything he's ever been in. He's just kind of this guy who's like, I guess I'm a movie star now.
Yeah. Okay. Here's your shield, Captain America.
Yeah, and it's very. Oh, he's just so like I love his little back and forth with Michael Douglas. It's like, oh, she has wings and blasters. And he's like, I guess you didn't have that when it was for me. And he's like, no, I did. And it's just like, oh, okay. I think that's like Paul Rudd's entire career, though. It's like, oh, we're going to give you a sequel to Ant-Man. Oh, really? And it's like, yeah, sandwiched between Infinity War and Black Panther. Oh, cool.
This is the other thing. What do you think? Where is this in the timeline? I think it's before Infinity War.
It has to be before Infinity War. There's no... Because I think it's directly after Civil War, because he's dealing with the fallout with the FBI and stuff.
So it looks like it's going to be 6 months earlier sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Casual.
I can handle that. Which also means that he could be killed in Infinity War.
Yeah, you could get rid of it. I'd say I would imagine Michael Douglas will die in Infinity War.
Oh, that's a good shout.
The original Ant-Man will kick the bucket in Infinity War, but then the original Wasp will come back to take his place in Ant-Man 3.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Fifes.
Pfeiffer. Hopefully in a cat suit.
Hopefully. So, speaking of monstrous franchises that no one has any control over, Michael.
Oh, very good.
What have
you dropped there, Ben? This is your first time ever doing a podcast? Just gonna make some more noise. Bloody Italians on Vespas. Italian bloody dogs. Dropping pens.
This is not an just so we're clear. This is not an anti-Italy podcast. I am living in Italy currently. And Michael is just a bloody bigot. Nice. Speaking of franchises that lead to high amounts of neckbeard rage and fandom bitching, Star Trek,
God,
Michael.
Oh God, Star Trek. The people who watch these series are the people most likely to be listening to this.
I don't care.
Also, if you'll take a look, I have a little bit of beard on my neck here at the moment.
Yeah, and I was going to bring that up after the podcast, Michael. I won't do a podcast with a neck beard. It's not going to happen. On a more genuine note, I read some very interesting news this week. Star Trek Discovery.
Ben, let me facetiously ask you, what was the news? Ben, what was the news that you read?
Star Trek Discovery is doing exceptionally well despite a poor opening couple of episodes. It's one of... I think
Hold on a second, I have to do a cough.
Oh.
I might edit that out. I might not.
Fair enough. It's now the most talked about show in the United States.
Oh.
According to data from... Is it Parrot something? Anyway, something they measure the cultural impact of television shows, which is kind of a more interesting way. So it's less crappy than an aggregate rating system, and more interesting for our needs, because they measure the cultural impact of certain shows, which is very interesting.
Does that include social media mentions?
I think so.
It does. And does it also include? Does it also include streams?
Streams, I don't know.
It does, Ben. That was I was setting you up there to say yes.
You led me down a merry path.
I didn't, Ben. I was trying to make you appear more intelligent. Does it also include illegal torrents?
Yes.
Yes, it does. Well done, Ben.
Yes, it does. Yay, I passed.
Which is interesting because it means that a media company is recognizing the fact that a lot of these shows are consumed illegally and are taking that into account when they're talking about the popularity of a show. Yeah,
you probably should though, shouldn't you? That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. especially if you're talking about moving away from traditional advertising and more product placement or
Yeah.
other ways of making money from people watching your show.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's quite useful how they compile it. Anyway, what interested me the most about this is my curiosity was so piqued by this.
Piqued, yes.
That I went and watched the first 2 episodes of Star Trek Discovery.
Go on.
Which is very unusual for me because, as you know, I'm
Yes.
not a Star Trek fan.
Well, Ben, you don't have to be a Star Trek fan to watch a TV show.
I know, but it would be unusual for me to even deign to bother with Star Trek.
Isn't that an interesting thing about Star Trek? You'll watch basically the first couple of episodes of any new science fiction thing, but the fact that it has Star Trek in front of it has put you off.
Has put me off. But...
No, hold on. Before we move on, are there any other preambles that would put you off? Would you watch a Stargate Discovery?
No, probably not.
Would you watch a Battlestar Galactica Discovery?
Probably not.
Okay, so it's only if it's a famous... would you watch a Star Wars Discovery?
Christ, no.
Would you watch a... I can't think of any more Star things. Would you watch
I struggle with space. I don't like space operas.
Oh.
As they are. I don't... Generally, not a big
Space is the best, Ben!
It can be, but for me, the best Star Trek show that I've seen in the last while was The Orville.
Oh.
Which was a complete piss take of Star Trek. Well, it wasn't. It was it's more of a blatant rip-off at this point.
Yes, it is. It's just a blatant rip-off of Star Trek The Next Generation with the occasional bit of poor comedy thrown in.
Yeah. I think originally I thought it was supposed to be a comedy, but it's really not. You watch it and I think it's just Seth MacFarlane living out his Jean-Luc Picard fantasy.
Yeah, it's kind of a loving remake of Next Generation with a bit of irreverence thrown in, but not much irreverence. Like it's pretty. And if anything, it's as heavy-handed, if not more heavy-handed, with its moralizing than the Next Generation was.
Oh, I think it's more heavy-handed. I think it's a bit ridiculous. I've kind of been put off it, but I quite enjoyed the first couple of episodes. But I've found
the baby sex change one. The baby sex change one was a bit much. Not that there was anything wrong with the message of the episode or the pacing of the episode or the writing, but just the combination of the whole thing. It was a bit on the nose. It was
very on the nose.
I never thought I would say this, but it wasn't quite as subtle as Star Trek The Next Generation.
Which is quite a statement to make.
I think that's the first time that's ever been said.
Yeah, so for me, I think the most interesting thing is that Star Trek Discovery is nothing like The Next Generation.
Well,
or
Benjamin,
the original Roddenberry.
Okay, well, first of all, The Next Generation is very not like the original one.
Yes, true.
They really are quite different, those two shows. Like you have Kirk in the original, who's this renegade, youngest captain ever, doesn't follow the rules. He'll punch an alien and seduce an alien woman and punch an alien woman if she gives him some lip, and then he'll
classic Kirk.
And like Kirk he's like a space cowboy basically before Firefly made it cool. There are rules, but they don't apply to Kirk.
Fair.
Whereas Captain Picard, The Next Generation, like the worst accusation you can make against The Next Generation is there's a kind of certain sterility to it.
Yeah, it has that sometimes.
They live in a very black and white world. There's goodies and there's baddies. And Captain Picard is the rules personified into a person. Into a very charismatic Frenchman who was born in England but has an American history. He's very confusing.
We know someone we know someone slightly like that.
Do we?
We know a Frenchman bound of English descent.
But he's not he's not bald or charismatic.
Come on, that's not true. He's charismatic. I could see him commanding a Starfleet.
Like a small ship.
Yeah, but that's fine.
You give him a little small ship. Nah, I'd be more of your I'd be more of your Kirk type character, I imagine.
If you're
Going around punching alien
if
women.
if our charismatic Frenchman listens to this, and I doubt he does, but if he does, right there, you can have your own Starfleet any day.
Look, even if he does listen to this, he probably doesn't know we're talking about him.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, so I always thought of the original series as this hokey, crappy thing. Way past my... No, look, it's way outside my realm of... Like, by the time it got to me, all of this stuff had become cliche. I think it's really exciting for people much earlier because it kind of set all these tropes up. But for me, I'm in a saturated market. I live in a saturated space world where we do lots of space operas and space explorations and all this kind of thing. And sci-fi is a very established thing now, and it's huge. So it was too late for me to ever get into 60s Trek.
Okay.
It was never going to happen.
So what you're saying is you're not allowed to like things which are old.
No, I
you
don't
only
really
like new things.
No, that's not what I meant at all. What I meant was the significance of that series is lost on me.
So
because
things which happened before you were born, you don't find significant. The moon landing.
No.
We've been to the moon.
The moon landing didn't happen.
Joe Rogan.
We covered this. Joe Rogan. But,
growing his hair back made him believe
God damn it, you're
things.
sidetracking me from a goddamn point. Not that things that happened before me aren't significant. What I mean is they didn't... Star Trek, the original series, Roddenberry's run, doesn't mean as much to me.
Okay.
Because I came to a world that already had or has already paid homage to him a million times over.
Okay.
So to me, it just seems like a stack of cliches. To other people, they recognize it as the starting point for a lot of those cliches.
Do you feel the same way when you read a Shakespeare?
Sometimes.
And you're like, oh, a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. And you're like, oh, heard it.
Heard it. Hallmark card. But no, you know what I mean.
You're like a plague on both your houses. You're like, oh, I saw that in bloody Leonardo DiCaprio's Romeo and Juliet.
That's what happens with my boss anytime I'm late. He just starts screaming out at me. Just like, okay, settle down, Tom.
Hold on, wait a second, hold on. First of all, who's Tom? Second of all, you don't have a boss. I know for a fact that you're a student. What's going on?
It was a bit.
Oh, sorry.
But anyway, then the Next Generation kind of interested me a little bit more, but at times it's just incredibly boring.
Yes.
No?
Yes.
No, yeah, for me. And then I remember I watched a documentary in between ever trying to get into Enterprise. Is it Enterprise? Is that the next one?
Can we talk about the Next Generation first, or are we just going straight on to Enterprise now?
No, we can do Next Generation.
Look,
keep talking
here's
about
the thing about Next Generation, Ben.
Explain.
Here's the thing about Next Generation. Next Generation is Roddenberry's vision perfected, essentially. Roddenberry's idea was that Star Trek would represent when humanity reaches maturity.
Okay.
So there's no more racism. There's no more sexism.
Woo.
Sexism's gone.
Woo.
Racism's gone. Smoking is gone. Drugs are gone. And there is basically a perfect vision of humanity.
Okay.
Which means there isn't a lot of conflict. The thing about Next Generation is you'll notice there's never any interpersonal conflict between the crew.
Yeah, there's a lot of diplomacy going around.
But they never question each other. They never disagree over anything. They are just this perfect unit of paragons. Except for Wesley, but no one likes Wesley.
Yeah. There's the empathic woman character. There's the
they do have
sexy lieutenant character.
Well, who's the sexy lieutenant? Who's the sexy lieutenant?
Riker, no?
Oh, Riker.
Riker.
You've let a lot out about your personal taste there, Ben.
Have you ever seen the compilation on YouTube of Riker sitting down?
Oh, he sits down magnificently. It's It's a majestic sit.
He always swings his leg. He spins the chair and does the AC Slater from Saved by the Bell every single time. It was magnificent. There's a whole supercut of it on YouTube. We'll definitely link it below in the video.
Oh, thanks, Ben. Now I have to find that and link it. Thanks a lot.
No, I'll send it to you after this. But anyway, you have your outside observer in the form of Data. It's like, I do not understand.
Yeah.
And you have to educate the robot on human ways.
He's not a robot.
In other words, useless exposition bot. Sorry, android. Android? Yeah, android.
Yeah.
Is that what we call him? Yeah, he says it about 85 times an episode. I am an android. I am an android. I am an android. Yeah, he's terrible. Anyway, you have your disability but not real disability character in
Geordie
LaForge.
Yeah.
You have your classic hyper male character in the form of what's that
Worf.
guy's name? Worf, that's the one, that's the guy, got it. And then you have a really pointless character in the form of the Doctor, who doesn't seem to do much except
that's
worry.
sexist, Ben. The Doctor,
probably
she's not great. Worf is an interesting one, because Worf is the badass of the crew, basically.
And
he never wins a fight. Anytime you need to show a baddie is physically intimidating, you just have them beat up Worf. I don't think he ever won a fight in the entire series.
Poor Worf.
Yeah, and it creates an effect then. Nearly every science fiction show for 20 years after had a Worf. Like a big, strong, badass character who, when you needed to show someone was tough, you have them beat them up. Stargate had Teal'c. Yeah. Stargate Atlantis had Ronan. It became... Worf is now a trope.
Yeah, so it's strong in the bubble, weak outside the bubble, kind of gig. Yeah, but I think one of the interesting things about the Next Generation, having not seen very much of it, is that it is a different kind of show, and it doesn't rely as much on the beat 'em up kind of thing, which kind of makes it significant in sci-fi things. There's not as many gun battles or all-out shoots, and I always found the kind of star battles to be kind of silly.
Which show are we talking
about? Where, their ship is getting... Next Generation.
Okay, yes. The starship battles in Next Generation are like ship-of-the-line naval battles, basically.
Yeah.
They're two large ships. They're not fighters. They're capital ships. So they basically...
Yeah, exactly. So they're just...
They basically stand in front of each other and shoot until one loses shields.
Yes. It's hilarious. And they shake the room or the camera a little bit, and all the actors are like, whoa!
Ben,
and you have some flashing lights.
Stop mocking things from the past! People like things from the past!
And then you have things like, status, shields are 20%, Captain. And it's just like, oh no, 20%. One more hit and we're done. Oh, no. What's Picard going to do? What's he going to pull out of the bag now? And he says, and
now,
he does
Picard's
something.
a lot more bloody... committed than that. He doesn't go,
eloquent. He's probably quite elegant.
Yeah.
There's only one thing to do, Lieutenant. There's only one thing to do.
Load proton torpedo tube 7. Fire on my command. Fire.
Fetch me my Macbeth. I shall read to them.
Look.
Soothe the savage beast.
The other thing about Star Trek: The Next Generation is it's almost entirely episodic. There are very few threads running through.
It's a case of the week.
Where are we for time here? Let's talk about, bloody 34. Let's talk about Discovery, Ben. So
I think what I like about Discovery is that all those paragons are kind of done away with.
Mm-hmm.
I was really interested. I watched the first 2 episodes, and you have Burnham, who's your key, half Vulcan, half human.
No, she's human.
Compromised. Is she only human?
Yeah. Human raised by Vulcans.
She was half Vulcan. Oh,
she's fully human raised by Vulcans.
Had
Spock.
The moment. Oh,
Spock is half human, half Vulcan.
That's why she laughs. I see. I'm mixing that up. Damn it, mixing up.
Here's the thing, though, Ben. Here's the thing, right? Here's a bloody annoying thing. I really like Discovery. I've seen the whole series so far. It's very good. Here's the annoying thing. Why did she have to be Spock's hitherto unknown secret stepsister?
I didn't know that.
Well, Sarek is Spock's dad.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Why? It's a bit of Star Wars syndrome. It's a bit of Star Wars prequel syndrome where we're doing a prequel. We have to meet everyone who we've ever met before in some sort of formative stage. So I wish she had just been a human raised by Vulcans instead of a human raised by Spock's dad.
Yeah, there would have been no harm in that.
Like we've been hanging about with Spock for the past 40 years, and he never once mentioned that he had a stepsister.
Yeah, which is
a human stepsister.
A human stepsister, which is quite significant.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of understanding a lot of stuff. But yeah, I don't know.
Also, I seem to have lost you there, Ben. Also, in the movies, Spock's mom was Winona Ryder. And then in this show, she definitely isn't.
Winona Ryder?
Was it Winona Ryder?
Oh,
it was, wasn't it?
Was it Winona Ryder? I don't know. You'd have to... I don't know.
I can't remember now. I think it was.
I couldn't tell you. We'd have to look that up. Anyway. She's really interesting. She's insubordinate.
Yeah.
She tries to be logical. And she fails quite often. Because she's too human. And she's very, very arrogant, which I quite like, in her character. I rarely get to see that in Star Trek characters. They're usually also understanding and patient and fine-tempered. And she's really not. She quite often gets herself in a lot of trouble. I love the cowardly science officer. He was very interesting.
I can't remember him. Who is he?
The kind of...
Saru.
He's the one who senses death.
Yes, he travels with her, yes. That is, of course, Doug Jones.
Doug Jones, who I'm quite fond of.
Yes. In later episodes, the Doug Jones-ness of his performance really starts shining through. He starts doing the open palms and the one long finger of wait a moment. Yeah.
He Joneses it up.
He does Doug Jones it up a little bit, but he's a great visual. I mean, he really looks alien.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah.
Doug Jones has a really great way of kind of manifesting himself into those roles. Yeah. I really like that. I like the really strong bond between... This is the first time I've seen a bond between Commander and Lieutenant that I didn't think was completely and utterly false and made up for the premise of the thing. I really thought there was a genuine kind of mentor-mentee bond between the original captain, because I know, between the original captain of the first two episodes,
Philippa Georgiou,
and Burnham. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Look, here's the thing, right? Discovery is, I imagine, Gene Roddenberry would be turning in his grave at Discovery. So, just one thing, first of all. You, having seen the first two episodes, Ben, you're a bit out of the loop, because the first two episodes are...
you spoiled.
I'm going to spoil away. But the first two episodes are very, very, very different from the rest of the series, first of all.
Damn it.
You haven't met the captain of the series yet. You haven't met Gabriel Lorca, played by Jason Isaacs.
Which is Jason Isaac. And I love Jason Isaac.
Jason Isaac is amazing in this. He's a captain, but he's a warmongering captain. He's a military. He's a military man in Starfleet, and he's willing to go to any length to win the war. And I mean, thinking back to Next Generation, Captain Picard was the law, not in a Judge Dredd sort of badass way, but Captain Picard followed the rules. Unless the rules were terrible, then he rewrote the rules to be better rules.
Yeah, to fit him.
No, not to fit him. To make it better for everyone. Captain Picard is just a shining beacon of goodness. Gabriel Lorca, the captain in this series, is the kind of captain who Captain Picard would spend an episode hunting down in The Next Generation.
Because of his disgraceful behavior towards...
someone or something.
The rules.
Yes, Captain Picard would get a subspace message saying, Captain, there's a subspace message coming in from Starfleet. And then the Starfleet message would say, Captain Gabriel Lorca is refusing to return to Starbase 72. We suspect something is afoot. And then Picard would track him down, and it would turn out that Gabriel Lorca had some fairly justifiable beef with someone. He might even be in the
Yeah.
right. But Picard would say, you can't do it this way. And Gabriel Lorca would say, no, look, I'm doing it this way. Fuck you! And he'd go off to do it. But then Picard would go, we can't fire on another Federation starship. So Picard would beam someone over to Gabriel Lorca's ship. And that person would have a heart-to-heart with him and convince Gabriel Lorca to turn himself over to the Enterprise and be brought back to Starfleet for trial.
Like the Colomini episode.
Well, they're all Colomini episodes, but like the episode The Wounded. I've basically described the plot of The Wounded. And this captain in The Wounded, he was right. What was his name? Benjamin Maxwell. Captain Maxwell. He was right. The Cardassians were planning for war, and he was attacking them.
The Kardashians are...
Cardassians!
I don't... the Kardashians are...
Cardassians!
That's what I said. The clothing lines, the makeup tutorials, this is all preparation for
Classic
a big event.
Kardashian
Star Trek saw it
confusion.
coming.
But this is the interesting thing. Lorca, this version of Lorca, there's no way that version of Picard would talk him down. You know what I mean? He's a much more... You couldn't solve this problem in one episode of The Next Generation.
Ooh.
He's a great character. He's a very, very good character.
I'm gonna have to check out Lorca now. That sounds
Look,
interesting.
Ben,
That
watch
sounds
the
very,
whole
very
series.
interesting.
It's a bloody roller coaster ride of a series.
Okay.
And it only gets better. No, that's not true. It lulls a bit somewhere, but then it only gets better after that.
After the lull. Post-lull.
It's a bloody breakneck thing as well. Here's another interesting thing about Discovery, Benjamin.
Yes.
My good lady partner, who I live with, yes, she really likes it. Yes. Isn't that interesting?
Really? That is interesting, because she's not a huge fan of what we do.
No, she bloody hates this podcast, for example. And she still calls it Stargate. Every week she says, the new Stargate episode was on. And I'm like, all right, I'm not correcting you anymore. That's just what we're calling it. It's Stargate Discovery. That's the name of the program in this house.
It's a hard life.
Ben, this show is very much Star Trek for the Grey's Anatomy generation.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It depends what you think of Grey's Anatomy. Grey's Anatomy, one of the most popular series of the last bloody 2 decades.
Can't argue with that.
And very influential. Like, there's quirky characters who talk too much. There's different romances on the ship between such and this person. And then we see them balancing their work life with their family life and whatnot. It's very much Star Trek for the Grey's Anatomy generation. Some of the characters in it read like you'd taken a character from Grey's Anatomy and put them on a spaceship.
Okay.
Particularly, I'm talking about Tilly, who you haven't met yet, and the engineer Stamets, who you also haven't met yet. But
Okay.
you
I'll
will,
meet them
and
soon.
I challenge you not to think Grey's Anatomy when they're doing their thing.
Okay. Fair
So
enough.
it's up to you.
High praise there.
Yeah. The other thing is there's a couple of little throwbacks in this. Are you familiar with Tasha Yar?
Tasha, you'd have to give me something she was
Tasha Yar was in... No, she's a character. She was in The Next Generation. She was the chief security officer in the first few episodes of season 1. And then she was kind of surprisingly and quickly killed off, I think in the 9th episode or something like that. And there's a little homage to this in this series, that chief security officers keep dying very quickly. So there's lots of little throwbacks to The Next Generation in this.
Okay. So you think it's a nice hybrid for a new generation?
Oh, well, I don't know. I think... who am I to say what Gene Roddenberry would think, but I think Gene Roddenberry would hate it.
Oh, okay.
Because I think Gene Roddenberry would hate insecure, petty people maneuvering against each other, and
because those aren't the human beings of tomorrow for today.
exactly, they're not the mature human race evolved into a perfect society, spreading their perfection through the galaxy.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
There's also Ben. There's quite a lot of. There's an interesting thing about this series that it's in continuity pretty well with Enterprise, the bastard stepchild of Star Trek.
If you could explain what Enterprise is to me, because I'm a little bit unclear.
Enterprise.
Enterprise
was a prequel series.
Okay.
Is
this the one with the lady captain?
No, that was Voyager.
Oh God.
And I mean, her name was Captain Janeway, and she had other characteristics than being the lady captain.
I never watched the goddamn show. How would I know how to distinguish her as a person?
Chronologically,
I never watched. Yeah.
Go on. Chronologically, Voyager is the last series. After Voyager ended.
Oh, okay.
After Voyager ended, for whatever reason, everything became about prequels.
Okay.
So we went back to the very beginning and had Enterprise. And Enterprise is set about 40 years before the original series.
Okay.
And then Discovery is set about 30 years after Enterprise and about 10 years before the original series.
Okay, so Spock is on the way.
Spock would be a fully grown adult by this stage. He would be a lieutenant commander, I think.
So there will be a Spock cameo at some point in Discovery.
I don't know. This is the thing. A lot of it, I think, I was talking about this with my lady partner because we now have conversations about Star Trek. Although I had to keep using.
How times have
it's
changed.
weird. But look, Ben, you started this conversation by asking why are 53 million people watching and talking about it?
Yeah,
and
that's what I want to know.
There's the interesting thing. They've somehow attracted someone who can't even remember the name of the show, but who has seen 10 series of Grey's Anatomy.
So could you say that this is for the next generation of Star Trek fans? Yeah. Got it.
End of the podcast, so.
Got it. Yeah. Sorry.
Can't even remember what I was saying now. I'm so disgusted.
No, that's fair. That's fair. You were saying that they have somehow managed to attract a brand new generation of people.
Yeah, I was saying that.
Watch something like Star Trek.
Before I was saying that, I was rambling about. I was talking about this with my lady partner, and I can see no benefits and only drawback to this being a prequel series.
Oh.
For example, they have a lot of technology which appears to have disappeared by the time the original series rolls around. And, I mean, the benefits are you can make her Spock's sister. Maybe, Ben, they're going somewhere with this. But I think it's a little bit of a fear to just move on past Voyager. And it would have been fine. It would have still worked. You could have ended Voyager and then moved on 250 years. Say the Klingons dropped off the map and now they're back. I mean, a lot of it still would make a lot of sense. But just take a look at the rest of it, Ben, because it's very much different from the first 2 episodes.
Okay. Fair enough. Sounds good. Ringing endorsement there from Michael Leonard.
Oh, people can't see me when I wave. I forgot.
Yeah.
Now that I can see you on screen, I kind of forget that people can't see us.
Don't see us on screen.
Yeah.
We could theoretically try at some point to have to split our videos together at some point and turn that into our video. That would be.
We'd have to buy webcams though.
Do we not have?
Well, these aren't good enough. I'm not. Look at the grainy face.
Yeah.
Also,
that's fair. We're very grainy.
Also, you'll have to become considerably more photogenic.
I think we both know that out of the pair of us, I am the most photogenic man.
On
the screen right now.
Definitely not.
This lighting is amazing. I look like I've been lit from above. It's
no
awesome.
Hair on your neck whatsoever.
There was never any hair on my neck. There's no hair on my chest either.
No! Put your clothes back on!
There's nothing.
Oh no, this has turned into a weird... You're so pale. You must be
incredibly pale.
You must be the object of quite a lot of mockery in Italy.
People keep walking up to me with garlic and crucifixes. I can't figure out why.
It's just an Italian delicacy. Ben, do you want to try this olio crucifixico? It's delicious. Ben, let's go before it gets any worse.
Oh, it's amazing.
Okay,
All
bye,
right,
everybody.
fair enough.
Well, hold on. Follow us
All
on
right.
YouTube. Ben, do the end bit. I can never remember what to say.
Yeah, so first of all, if you do feel like commenting on our stuff, let us know which iteration of Star Trek you like. Are you a new fan of Star Trek? Do you hate Star Trek? Do you love Star Trek? Who was the better captain? Who'd win in a fight, Picard or Kirk? It's definitely Picard. No, Picard.
Kirk would win the fight.
And yeah, but it'll never get to a fight. That's the point. Yeah. So anyway, let us know down below. As always, give us now a like there. And do subscribe. Oh, and for anyone that's back listening to us from last week, thank you very much for helping our view count last week. We had a very popular episode last week. Thank you very much.
Mass Effect, as it turns out, very popular.
Yeah, Mass Effect. Who knew? Anyway, that's all from us.
Bye.
Bye.